Okay, welcome to Zesty, the podcast where two 20-somethings try to make the best out of the 2020s by talking about food. The best thing ever, right? And that concerns exactly everyone. Today's episode is in springtime, or at least the start of it, so the thought was for us to have a little chit-chat on spring and what's going to be on your plate, and also a little bit of the grandma core that's been going on in social media regarding food lately. So, Magnus, before we start, how's it going?
Good, yeah. I haven't really eaten anything today, if I'm being honest, and I'm on my third cup of coffee.
Slay.
I just couldn't find the inspiration in anything.
It happens.
What about you? How are you?
I'm very, very good, actually. I was just outside. It's very cold today, but at least I was moving some roses, some little plants in the garden. Yeah, it was good. And also, I, contrary to you, had an amazing lunch. An amazing lunch. I have to brag about this chicken. I swear, I've been raving about it to exactly everyone in my family. I did a peri-peri chicken. I don't know if you have ever had Nando's. Have you?
Is it an Indian thing?
No, apparently it's a UK thing. It's like Portuguese spicy chicken. And I've never had it, but I've just seen everyone talk about it. And I attempted to do it yesterday because I love chili sauce. And I threw in some cherry, some cumin, lots of nice oregano, thyme, and lots of good stuff. It was honestly one of the best chickens I've had for a long while. So I'm definitely have to get that recipe down and post it for the world to know.
So it's like a spicy chicken kind of thing?
Yes, but it's like, the spicy, sweet, and acid, because you throw in some vinegar in it. I went for cherry vinegar, but, you can use basically any vinegar. And that, makes this kind of extra finish, where you just feel like you have the spice, but you also have the zestiness, speaking of, and also some sweetness. I put some honey in it. It was amazing. I cannot describe it. You have to experience it on your own.
Last night I made some chicken. Then I also did sort of a vinegar-based marinade with red wine vinegar. That's the only one I used. I only made like balsamic glazed chicken. But I had it with this very revolutionary pasta, which is like garlic confit.
Oh!
Right?
What, like in the pasta dough? Or like in the sauce?
In the sauce, so to speak. So it was an olive oil kind of sauce, which I just slow cooked the garlic while I was roasting the chicken. And then it was just garlic, butter, chili, olive oil, and salt. It was pretty good. I made a video about it because I only have very few things right now in my kitchen. And that's why I've gone kind of crazy with the garlic, because I always have garlic. And so tonight I'm also making duck confit. And next to the duck's confit comes this seafood risotto thing that I bought that I'm gonna make with garlic confit as well. So it's garlic confetti up in here. The duck confit is taking way too much of my attention. And then I realized that the duck confit is probably not gonna be ready until tomorrow. So actually I have to come up with something else tonight, but it's still sort of in the program to get this duck confit going.
I'm sorry, I'm just loving how you keep saying duck confit. It's killing me.
How is it said?
Confit. You don't pronounce the T in Francais.
I saw it from this woman on Instagram who was doing it, and she always does like these French recipes. She's like, here's another French recipe French people make at home. And I think I sent you one, which was leeks being braised. Yeah, I saw that in your video. That was so cute. Girl.
Was it good?
Yeah.
You do it again?
I would do it again, yeah. But the thing about it, the dish we're talking about is basically leeks, and then you braise it in some kind of broth thing, which is creamy as well. The original woman, she did it with sardines, so there was a little bit of saltiness to it, and wine. I don't use wine in cooking, and I definitely don't use sardines. But I just made kind of like a cream bone broth hybrid sort of thing and made it work. With red wine vinegar, of course, you will always find red wine vinegar in my food. And it was revolutionary. However, it was such a effort to do for what it's worth in return. It's a side. It screams sides at all levels. You can have it with bread and butter and it's pretty good, but it's it was kind of a process, let's say, for just what the result of it is. But definitely make it,
But that's usually how it goes with French recipes, I feel. It always takes some meticulousness. You need to take your time. It's all about presentation as well, because as I remember, you kind of have to lay out 3 centimeter, 4 centimeter thick pieces of leek in a nice shape, essentially.
Yeah.
I know that in the video you put it in like this big gratin form, but if you would have a mini, those like mini tartelette thingies, it would have been very, very cute for like a one-person meal. But that's how it is when you try a recipe for the first time. It's always like, you don't know what to expect. It's either gonna be revolutionary, not that good, or like something in between where you need a couple tries to perfect it for sure.
It was the second time I made it in the video, actually. So I had made it one time before. It's one of those things that is such a like side piece that next to something it's great, but in of itself alone, then it's like a little bit, okay, it works definitely and it's good. It's just like a process, so to say, for like one dish, because you're gonna eat the whole thing anyways because it's not that much food.
No, speaking of which, because we were talking about the whole spring coming on, you're talking about leeks, which is definitely more of a spring vegetable, wild garlic. I'm super excited about asparagus, to be honest. I can't wait for them. They are so delicious when they come from this island here in Sweden, right next to Sweden. They're usually a little bit more expensive, and the period of time that they're growing is quite short, but they are so incredibly delicious.
Where do you place asparagus in your life and on your plate?
For me, maybe when I was growing up, I didn't really care for asparagus. I remember my dad had this very old school French way of making asparagus where you basically just blanch them and then turn them in some butter and eat them like that. But the thing was that my dad would love them a little bit, in my opinion, overcooked.
Oh.
But that's the thing with asparagus, because, he liked them basically like the Swedish king. And the Swedish king is famous for wanting to have his asparagus so cooked that when you have it on a fork, it should not be stiff on the fork, but it should dingle dangle on a god fork. Most people would consider that basically taking out all nutrients and flavor from the vegetable, dissecting it, fantastic features, which I agree, it turns into this, from being this vibrant green asparagus that you would have, it just turns disgustingly slimy. Not something that you would find appetizing, but I know that then I was working in this little fancy delicacy store where we were selling fruits and vegetables essentially, and it was such a big deal for Swedish people when the white asparagus would arrive. And that's the thing for the Germans as well, that as soon as the spring is coming, the first asparagus that comes is the white asparagus, and then comes the green, and everybody's just waiting for it. I'm not really sure what the history behind it is, but basically you make it with a nice hollandaise sauce, I'm pretty sure. So it is, it's, what can you say? It's like a royal vegetable that people appreciate just on its own and having it as like the center of the plate.
I think I only bought asparagus once, and that was when I was living in Germany. They're obsessed with it there. And when you said that you were obsessed with it in Sweden as well, I was thinking like, I don't think we're that obsessed with it in Norway. Maybe, but I felt like in Germany, this was like a thing people were saying and preaching and talking about asparagus season, or they called it something, spalgal, whatever. And I only bought it once. What I did to it, I just had it next to, I think, a steak. Because I don't know where else to place asparagus. I can do 200 trillion things with a broccoli, but I cannot do enough with asparagus besides having it as a side next to a piece of meat. And then it needs to be like mashed potatoes or something, because a pasta of sort next to it, the Norwegian plate, meat, grains, veggies. Next to asparagus, if that's the guest, then I don't know what else to put besides like mashed potatoes. So I was wondering, what do you plate it with? Where does it arrive? Who does it arrive next to on the plate?
That's the thing, that when it comes to the white asparagus, if I remember correctly, the whole thing about asparagus is that the period of it is so short. That's why people look forward to it, and you kind of have to catch it while it's hot. You don't want it to be transported because it loses so much value, and you actually don't let the plants, grow fully. But asparagus, I would say the white one is grown underground. So you wouldn't want to, quote unquote, ruin it by blending it with, as you say, like a fat piece of meat and mashed potatoes and a bunch of other stuff. You just want to let it be as it is on its own, which maybe to you sounds very odd since you're not used to it, but that's definitely how people eat it. Just make a very nice fatty sauce, perhaps mix it with some kind of seafood, very nice additions, but not still taking over the asparagus as the center of the dish. But, just throw in some asparagus, green one, in the same way that you would do with haricots verts or any kind of green beans. That's how I would have it. I mean, I still love to have, I can literally have a plate of asparagus. I'm so in love with this vegetable. Just some lemon, olive oil, and just munch on it. Doesn't need anything else.
I always saw it as like the it girl next to the steak.
Yes.
I never really saw it as its, own thing. And I was, but I don't know. Maybe I should. I don't know what's happening with asparagus here in Greece. So maybe I should, when the time comes, catch it while you can, as you say. But I think I still would plate it next to a piece of meat and some mashed potatoes, just because I think that's a little bit of an event in of itself,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would be satisfied with it alone. That's it.
You know what you could do, though, now that you're speaking about it? An asparagus risotto is always appreciated, since,
Oh, yeah?
you're a fan of this. Yeah. Asparagus risotto is very, very nice. 100% recommend.
Also on my plate this spring is pickled veggies. Listen, I hate pickles, the cucumber kind, but all the other ones I love. So that is always finding a place on my plate for the moment and for the season. And I've really been opening up my eyes to the art of pickles. I don't pickle myself yet. That will probably happen later in life when I move out of the city to like a little bit more of a, in between city and middle of nowhere type situation. Then I can see myself pickling and all of this stuff. But for now, I'm just experimenting with it on the plate. And yesterday with the chicken, the pickles found its way on the plate, let me tell you. Not pickled pickles, but the pickled veggies.
I mean, which kind though? Because there's so many. Is it like a vinegar pickle, salt pickle?
No, it's a vinegar kind of thing.
Yes. Turkish kind.
Yeah, I don't know. I just found it at a store here and it doesn't really have a brand or a name or anything. It just came, in a box that somebody...
I mean, that's something that I'm loving, that's been trending, that people are like going back to the simple stuff that I remember for sure from my upbringing. I mean, my grandma, she's Polish, and whenever we would visit, the whole entire basement was covered in jars. Pickling. Like, you would always be sent down to the...
she's a pickler.
Yeah, of course, like every Slavic grandma, I would say. And you are sent to go get a jar, every now and then. Have we gotten tired as a generation of all this fancy schmancy food that just straight up disappears from your plate in 3 seconds for the price of half your salary that used to be cool, let's say 10 years ago? And now all we want is to go back to grandma's kitchen and sit there and eat and get dirty, eat with your hands in public and not be ashamed and get to feel that childhood we never had.
It's funny because I think this grandma's cooking is a little bit of a marketing term, because I don't know any grandma's cooking, my grandma's never cooked like that. But I do understand the word and the feeling of it, and that's definitely what I always focus on myself, because my deal with it is just that it's like this food that looks very fancy and is very expensive. It's serving and giving very much this expensive, empty in a way. There's nothing there to hold on to, you know what I mean?
For sure. And I've listened to, podcasts with some Michelin chefs that used to make dishes with ingredients that they've imported from all sides of the earth into one plate. They themselves at some point just realized that this is ridiculous. I mean, it's very cool to get expensive, rare things all together and make it sing somehow, but is it really worth it? Why don't we just value, the simple stuff like potatoes, stuff that grows anywhere and everywhere, and try to lift it up and kind of be inspired maybe? All these things that we also know are good for us. Because I'm sorry to say, a lot of the stuff that I have had sometimes in restaurant, I feel like trash afterwards. I mean, it doesn't matter how good it is, but I feel like trash that needs to be taken out. I think there's kind of this trend of people caring maybe a little bit more about what they want in their body.
And I do think that also is what people mean with authentic and stuff, that it's not so fake and that it's not so mass produced and mixed together.
And it's so nostalgic as well. I don't know if that's like a Gen Z thing, but because you're so used to all this mass produced stuff, as you're saying, and just having memories basically from childhood that are mostly connected to some kind of brand of food, just having the flavor of something that feels nostalgic is just, like a feel good therapy session in a way.
That's the thing. It's like most of the food culture that we have now is very brand based. And I wish we could go over to a time where it was more important for us to make food and to cook food. And I think myself, I have a lot of struggles around food because it's not really like this food is never really fills you up and it's never really good. Personally, I never had this grandma cooking experience myself, although I want to become the grandma cooking. Right? I told you about my house. That's going to be somewhere between the city and middle of nowhere. I need to be that granny. Shouldn't we all then sort of aim to be this granny that we love to cook, and instead we're just sort of wasting our time away on processed food and stuff? And like, what is the end game here with all of this processed food?
One experience comes to mind when you're saying this. I don't know if you remember if it was a thing in your childhood, but this whole Kinder egg, those eggs that used to have a little toy inside of this yellow little plastic thing. For instance, I'm pretty sure that I was never allowed to buy one of those eggs. And as a kid, I did not understand, but my mom used to get so pissed off about it, just telling me that this is literally trash. They're just trying to sell you for a very, very expensive price a little tiny piece of chocolate that's not even good so that you get the toy inside. So it's just, I'm not going to do that. Other kids can go and get it, but the whole point is for you to go around, and she essentially would tell me that this is like blackmail. This is made for children to blackmail their parents into buying this and paying a price that's ridiculous for something that's unhealthy. So I used to always see those and think, oh my God, I wish I got it like the other kids. But now that I am a grown-up, I'm like, I am so happy that I didn't get used to that as many children were, that, they would get a Kinder Egg as some kind of gift for just existing. And that would be the highlight of their day.
I used to get that. And okay, first of all, the chocolate is fucking amazing. That Kinder chocolate is one of the top 5 chocolate, like in terms of flavor. What's in it and if it's healthy and if it's even real. Another discussion. But I would say definitely the chocolate and there was a little bit of experience, I guess. I never cared about necessarily the toy inside because the toy inside was always the same. It was some kind of mediocre thing that you could toss around and that entertained you for maybe 2.5 minutes because there wasn't really much you could do with something inside of that little thing anyways. But either way, I do see the point of like not getting your child that, or maybe starving your child a little bit for it, for better things.
I mean, most probably, I know that my mom, like I told her not that long ago, I was like, it's going to be really funny to see if and when I do get kids, because you're 100% going to be that grandma that just brings a whole bag of sugar to them, even if I try to give them healthy food. You're going to be, the cute grandma that comes over and just had chocolates in her pockets to give to the children when I'm not looking. And that's the kind of duality of it all that, while you might have been raised in a stricter way and, more emphasis on whole foods, there are also products that everybody knows are good, unhealthy, and that kids love. And adults as well, So for sure, there's like a marketing aspect in it all that, people now have to actively make the choice to choose the more whole foods, grandma style cooking, if you want to call it like that. Whereas before it was just a thing you did out of necessity. You didn't really have to think about it. And now it's becoming a whole trend.
I don't know though if it's a trend that's gonna last, to be honest, because it does also feel like one of these things where everyone was gonna go analog this year. Remember? Everyone was gonna be analog, but that didn't happen. And to whose surprise? No one.
Yeah.
What, you were really gonna give up your phone? Like, no, that's not really the way to do it, And I think that's the same with like this home cooking and all of this stuff. If you have an interest for it, and if you know this kind of language, then of course, go for it. I do. I always have. And I think my need comes from that dinner was always so boring in my house that it is associated with something gray. It's something mid, something boring, something that is just like, are you for real? Like, are you for real? Can't we at least enjoy the food, the stuff we put in our bodies? And I think that definitely spiraled me towards Kinder eggs, for example. Or my lunch in high school used to be Red Bull, Kinder Bueno, and a pack of cigarettes.
Insane.
And I lived off that.
I can't believe that.
Even what they sell in the cafeteria in high school in Norway, it's like, it's okay, but it's never really that good in a way. And you see these Korean kind of offices and they have their canteen and stuff like this. Have you seen this on social media?
Yeah, I love it. Goals.
Absolutely insane food. And you know that food is more, I know Korea, this is a lot of processed products. They're definitely not innocent from that. But as well, they definitely have sort of a standard. In Norway, that's just not the case. Norwegians don't really have a relationship with food unless they're going out to eat and then they go somewhere that isn't Norwegian. This mirrored as well a lot in the house that I grew up in, and I think that's what drove me to cook. The only way I was gonna get it right was to do it manually, so to speak, aka dropping the processed stuff as much as possible. That being said, a little processed hint here and there in the food, or like that you combine it with something. Pasta is processed, you know?
No, 100%. Now it's become like, I don't know, I can't remember the name of these housewives, because that was the whole thing, like 2025, with all those housewives that were posting videos where they're making stuff from scratch, but like at a ridiculous level. You know, that woman, oh my god, I don't know her name. Anyway, you know, she was basically making like flour from scratch in order to make pancakes from scratch, where she did the jam from scratch, where she did chocolate from scratch, literally everything. She would be putting insane amounts of hours into it.
Oh my god, are you talking about Nara Smith?
Oh yeah, right, that's her name, exactly. And I don't believe for a second that she is actually doing that stuff, because this is not realistic. I've grown up with these American shows where, yeah, sure, of course, you would love to make your own stock, but sometimes when you're a mother of 5 or a mother of 3 or a single mom of 1 even, who the hell has time after or before work to wake up at like 3 a.m. to do this before you leave your kids, get yourself to work, finish your shift, maybe take care of yourself a little bit, and then eat a proper meal? And you know, all good for people who do that, but that's just not realistic. This Nara Smith, as you say, stuff, because she's not the only one. There was like tons of them, and they were just, you know, multiplying like cockroaches. And I'm saying cockroaches because honestly, I don't think that vibe is good. All well with, you know, doing things from scratch, but that is not what I would call grandma cooking.
But would you do it though? If you had the time, realistically, and the money, would you go this in depth about things? Because I'm thinking, and a lot of times I have to admit, I would love to be a housewife, you know? I think I would be way more manual, like you say. Like, I think I would be way more Nara Smithy. I wouldn't go to the point of making gum myself. There are certain processed things that I enjoy. I enjoy gum. You know, the bar solo, if you have to say it like that. Whipping cream, you know, the one you get on the little thing, the spray. Always get strawberry to spray that all over the place. I love a lot of processed options. I just think that for myself, the interest has gone like a little bit more like, how can I do it manually in order to adjust a little bit here, a little bit there, so that you can really like perfect it in your way and in your liking. But I think, that being said, I would do even more broths, for example, if I could. If it wasn't for work, if it wasn't for having a restriction on my time or limitations on my kitchen, would you, realistically, don't think about anything else, but would you do it if you could be more manual?
Knowing myself and the way that I grew up, I know that I would for sure do it. If I had the equipment and if I had the time. I mean, when you're a housewife, you have so much time on your hands to do a bunch of things, and especially if you're well off. So I would 100% do it. I'm seeing myself in the future having a farmer husband and being able to just go out and pick my vegetables for my breakfast. I volunteered even at this lady's place where I was taking care of a dog, picking mulberries in the afternoon for my snack, climbing up in the tree, picking lettuce for my evening salad, helping out to make the olive oil, and I would love to go and be able to milk my cow. I don't see a problem with these things, and I think it's awesome.
So you would go that manual about it to even milk the cow?
Yeah, why not?
You would go to making the butter even.
Magnus, I don't know if I've told you, but I've been making butter lately, and I'm giving the buttermilk to my cat for drinking when he's been out in the wild for a whole day, and he's loving loving it. He needs calories. When he's been out running around, jumping around, fighting other neighborhood cats, when he gets home, even though, I'm living in basically a regular city, outskirt of the city neighborhood. So yeah, there is greenery, but, it's mainly buildings and stuff like this. He's having buttermilk that I have made. And yeah, I'm not churning the cream, for my butter in a butter churner with the wood sitting in the living room. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm using an electric whisk.
So you're gentrified it.
In a way, my sister was here the other day, and it was so cute because she was so excited to see me do butter, and then she made a little artwork on the butter. It was so cute, so much fun. So yeah, 100%. I'm trying to go that way.
You're definitely more manual than me then, because I would get the butter in the store. I love going to the store, and I love spending so much time in there, picking and choosing and seeing what I want, what I don't want. Branding definitely have an effect on me. I let myself be influenced. I let myself be seduced. I can buy into the fantasy of the packaging. I love the grocery stores, and this is, a second home to me. Okay, yeah, and then I get a lot of different manual things. I won't get the bread, I will make it, but I don't know about like churning the milk and doing the whole butter thing. I know a lot of people lately have been making their own butter, and they do say it's more buttery.
100%, there is no question.
Bro.
That's one of the things I missed in Greece as well. I am so sorry, but I did not like the butter in Greece. It pissed me off. I hate the Lurpak packaging. But again, I don't know if it's my Polish side growing up, visiting my grandma every summer in Poland. Sometimes she'd have a goat in the backyard and would just leave me and my sister to watch it while she's gone, getting bread, in the village. We would have to do walks to go and pick fresh water. So we would actually go to the village, a place that you get water, pump it out of the ground. We'd pump it out of the ground and then walk back with it.
Bro, okay.
That's why it's very different.
I mean, this explains a lot of your farm needs too, and you want a farmer.
Yeah.
You've seen a process of life that I'm just like never been exposed to in any way.
No, don't get me wrong. I'm still a city girl. That's why I get you. And that's why I was saying this whole thing about nostalgia with packaged foods and certain things that, I love my Swedish crisps. I was honestly some evenings crying in Greece because I was missing Swedish chips so much. It just didn't hit the same with the classic Lay's or whatever. I know people love them, but it's just not the same. Candies as well, and yeah.
And I think there's something kind of romantic about the packaging of a lot of stuff, which really gets you. Breaking off this more manual way of cooking and stuff. I think people are really buying into this when they're buying food too. So if it's branded in a more authentic way, if the product is giving you some sort of feeling, you would also kind of get that in the food. Or you can believe it and you can have a little bit more fun with life. There's this red wine vinegar, which is my favorite. And there's like a little farm in front of it. And I'm like, oh.
No, definitely. I don't think that it's good if you're lying about it and being like, oh, it's from a farm, but we don't give a shit about farmers and this is all processed and we've basically just put aroma into it. And made it, pretend vinegar. I studied this stuff, so I'm fully aware, that you can enhance certain things. But that's the difference. If you're enhancing a smell, for instance, just because, let's say, you had grapes that maybe weren't the best batch that year, but you also don't want to waste it and throw it all away, that's where you would put an aroma to kind of make it seem more like it's supposed to be without throwing it out.
Yeah.
Okay, some people might say that, yeah, but that's lying. That's being dishonest about it. But then on the other hand, would you like to have a vinegar that's gonna be thrown because nobody wants to buy it? Or are you going to keep the lower quality vinegar, add some aroma so that people can still recognize the flavor and feel enticed to buy it? I'm all for balance when it comes to that.
Remember to use vinegar in your food and also go more manual. I know people wanted to go analog this year. That's not happening. Okay? That's not happening. Stop being like anti this.
It's never gonna happen.
No, adjust to it, accept it, move on, make the best out of it. But what you can do is actually cook more naturally, just to spend time with yourself and food. Sacrifice the time, because you can scroll in between.
Oh my god.
So yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely the tough cookie on that. I 100% agree with it. Find a balance. And we're not gonna go analog. I mean, keep in mind that people are branding stuff to you all the time because they want your money. So be a little bit aware of that and just don't give all of it up because someone tells you to. Just have a think, choose what you like, make what you can on your own.
And brand yourself too, like how those cute products in the grocery store brands themselves. And let us buy into the idea of you.